Welcome to Financial Issues, where we help you steward faithfully by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
This is Financial Issues, where we help you defund darkness and fund the light by investing with biblical integrity. Welcome, folks, to our Wednesday show. It is Hump Day, Winning Wednesday. Seth Udinsky, Sam Case, your host, Mark Manila. We're all here. Mark, good morning to you, brother.
Good morning. Hey, you know, last night I was going through some old papers, clearing out stuff, and I came across some things I needed to shred, notes from clients that I used to have a long time ago. And I noticed at the beginning of a lot of my notes, I'd say something about, do you mind if we pray before we get started, to my clients, you know? And it occurred to me that there's a lot of people out there right now, maybe those who aren't partners. I think those who are partners won't have this issue, but many who might have a financial advisor. And I got a question for them before we get started here. Have you been ever asked to pray? Has your advisor ever asked about your faith or your religious beliefs, or asked to pray together? And if not, I would really say you should be concerned, because if they don't know who you are, if they don't realize your Christian worldview is the foundation of everything you are, how could they manage money in alignment with that for you? And I just thought I'd bring that up today, because I know there's a lot of people out there who think their advisors are asking all the right questions, but if they've never asked you about your faith, you really have to be concerned whether they're managing your money in alignment with your godly goals, your desire to honor God, and everything else. Yeah, they may be getting good returns, but they're not being a good steward for you. I just thought I'd bring that up, Seth. What do you think?
Mark, I'm with you. No, absolutely. I mean, not to make it too extreme, folks, but I do think it's a good analogy as well. Just imagine, and some of you don't have to imagine, some of you do experience this, and it's a tough situation. If you're a Christian and you're married to someone who's not a Christian, that's a tough marriage. That can be a really, really tough marriage, because you're not rowing in the same direction. Mark, it's very similar with your advisor. If you've got someone who's managing your money who does not fundamentally care about the same things that you do, especially when those concern the things of God, that can be a really tough situation. And Mark, I agree with you. I would not encourage anybody to leave their spouse just for that reason, but I would strongly encourage you, it might be time to leave your financial advisor.
Well, if somebody does not know what you base your life on, how can they guide you to reach your goals? Exactly. How could they know? They're just following the script that that their advisory gave them or their platform gave them, and not following and not custom designing a uniqueness plan around the uniqueness of your life and your relationship with Christ. Anyway,
well, you know, Mark,
I just wanted to get that out before we got too deep into the show.
I'm glad you mentioned it, Mark, because
I think we're already in it deep, Mark.
We are in it deep. That's right. No going back here. That's why we're here, Mark. Seriously. I mean, that is why this ministry is here. We want to be able to offer you that guidance, that similar guidance.
Exactly.
You know, it's not the same as a financial advisor, but it's similar guidance in that way. And I'll say, Mark, not only are we Bible believing, committed to the biblical worldview, but the Financial Issues Partnership is much cheaper than a financial advisor. I don't know if you knew that. The elites don't want you to know this, folks. You can pay $132 a year for the Financial Issues Partnership. Amazing deal.
Yeah.
Anyway. Good stuff. Mark, great insight there. Thank you for that. Hey, folks, if you want to join the conversation, give us a call, 610-363-1110. That's the number to call in. Give us a call right now. Again, 610-363-1110. Winning Wednesday today, of course, but first and foremost, it looks like the SEC is proposing to reduce quarterly earnings reports and maybe make them not so quarterly anymore. We've been seeing this, talks about it over the last couple months. Sam, bring us up to speed. What's been going on here?
It's the one thing the EU does that might be actually a good idea. They only have earnings reports twice a year instead of quarterly like we currently have right now, and the SEC is saying,
Sam, well said. Hang on, can I just say something? That was well said.
Yeah.
Because the EU does not do very many things well, but that might be one of the things that they do well. Anyway, sorry.
Yes, they only have the 2 reports. We have the 4.
So now we're comparing ourselves to the EU. Huh?
Well, you know, you should take the best from each culture.
Saying? Take something bad, put it next to worse, and bad looks good.
There you go. That's it.
So
Sorry,
SEC
Sam,
Chairman Paul Atkins is proposing this idea of only having mandated reports twice a year. I mean, if they want to release reports all the time, they can, but the mandated reports, they're hoping will only be twice the year mandated by the government. As they say, having those quarterly reports can pressure companies to focus on those short-term results instead of long-term growth. Critics, however, argue this idea would reduce transparency for investors and could cause problems that way. Although Atkins seems to be onto something here, because a recent poll did find that executives of companies, 65% of them say they would delay a positive investment for their company in order to meet those quarterly earnings targets. So, Mark, what do you think? Do you think this would be a good idea, or do you think it would harm transparency in some way?
Boy, it's almost like I'm a split personality inside. I'm arguing with myself on this because, quite frankly, one of the things that hits
Mark,
me.
I like that guitar music in the background, by the way. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I don't even know how that came out, actually. But
Mark's
one of the
so
things
talented,
that
he
hits
can
me,
talk on the show and play guitar at the same time.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
One of the things that hits me is that quarterly reports are nice. As a investor, I think that we have the technology at this point that it should be real-time reports. So as an investor, I would like to be able to look at these reports and see what they're doing. I'd like to see their balance sheets. I'd like to see all this. It should be real-time because they are a public company. They are asking, they used public money to invest in their company, to build it and make it big. And all this, and I know that's a lot of weight on somebody, but then, and I think, that little thing you said about 65% say they delay a positive investment. Guess what? They shouldn't be the CEO. They shouldn't be on the board of directors. If they can't make a good decision because of the pressure of getting these reports done and the pressure of how it might look, then they're not of the metal that they need to be in there. That's my thought on it.
That's their whole job.
These people are getting millions of dollars a year. Tens of millions, some of them, a year. And you're saying, well, I'm afraid to make a decision because some of the investors might not like this decision in the short term. Well, then you got to be better at communication. And you're being paid $10 million a year plus stock bonuses and everything else. Give me a break. Stop your whining. You're living a life of luxury on top of everybody using everybody else's money. And then, so you can see I'm going back and forth on it. Well, on one hand, I think they should be doing at least quarterly reports. I think real time would be better. On the other hand, I can see having a business. I've never had a business like a lot of these businesses that make the exchanges and stuff that big. But when you're at that level, you should be mature enough, professional enough, able enough to make big decisions and communicate them in a way that the quarterly reports don't get hurt because you made a decision. I mean, it's really easy to say, we're going to spend $13 billion over the next 3 years, and it's starting this quarter, so we're going to see a write-off on that, which is going to cause this and this. For all the investors, what this is going to mean is a return on investment of blah, blah, blah. It's so easy to do. Anyway, that's where I'm at on. I think no, we should. I went back and forth for a long time on this. I think they should be reporting real time.
And Mark, like you said, they have the horses.
If you want my money,
exactly.
If you want my money, if this is a private company, you don't need to report. You don't need to do these things. But this isn't a private company. You're using the public's money, and you're putting them at risk, and you're asking them to throw money into it. You did an IPO. You're going to do another IPO. You're going to borrow hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. Come on. Man up. Pull your pants up. Let's go. Be a big guy.
Love that, Mark. Hey, Mark, a question for you. How much stock, pun intended, wow, that was just brilliant. How much stock? How much stock?
You can tell Seth is the dad of 3 kids.
That was amazing.
Well, actually, he was making those jokes before he was a father.
I have to pause and just bask in the brilliance. No, how much stock should we put into the quarterly earnings reports? The quarterly earnings reports that our investments generate right now, as it is right now, they're still quarterly. How much should we pay attention to these?
Well, I think we should pay attention to them. There are insights into them. So obviously you need to pay attention to it. But there's a lot of ways to check on the reality. I don't know if you noticed, but there's actually websites out there that look at what the reports say and then whether they meet or exceed or revise, and they give them a rating on that. And some companies, every time they report something, they have to revise it over and over again. And there's some companies that kind of nail it. So you got to be careful. It's information. Use it and look for things in it that may cause alerts for you, and then that's when you dive deep. But I would just use the quarterly reports primarily more as just to find if there's any red flags, if they're saying anything that just doesn't fit what you think it should be saying. And with that said, I would like to know what you're saying. So why don't you give us a call at 610-363-1110. That's 610-363-1110. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what you think about quarterly reports, whether you pay attention to them or not.
My wife and I, we moved into this neighborhood. We had some experience with Crossroads Kids Club. We had served at another club. We kind of thought to ourselves, like, it would be really, really cool for us to actually bring in a club that was able to share the love of Jesus with kids directly into the school. And so we started our Crossroads at Hilltop.
Crossroads is amazing. You can learn all kinds of things about God. That He loves all of us. He died on the cross to pay for our sins. That He will help me in every way.
There is just such tremendous opportunity to reach kids in some of these areas that just aren't being reached.
Sometimes I pray every night. When I feel alone sometimes, God is right there sitting next to me. I can rely on Him no matter what happens.
Help reach kids with the hope of the gospel. Visit reachourschools.com.
It's easy to get caught up in the rush and forget about what really matters. Too often, we invest in stocks without knowing what they stand for. When your investments align with your values, your money speaks for you. Because biblical values matter, even when investing. Learn how to invest biblically and responsibly. Visit financialissues.org to learn more. That's financialissues.org.
Preborn is making motherhood possible for thousands of moms across America.
I found out that I was pregnant. My family, they were like, no, you're not having this baby. I met Miss Linda. She offered to get me an ultrasound. That's where I very first heard the heartbeat. It was really a great thing that I was led to the choice to keep him.
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of Preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
Welcome back, folks. Mark, you had said some really great things there about, in that first segment about, and having an advisor who will pray for you. One of the folks in our chat just mentioned something really cool, that you probably also don't have your healthcare providers praying for you either, unless you're with Samaritan Ministries.
Unless you're with Samaritan.
If you're with Samaritan Ministries, then when you call them and they help you through whatever problem you have, at the end of the call, they will pray with you. I've had that before, Mark. I've called them several times. It's been wonderful. Usually they'll pray for the need as well. Usually it's some kind of medical need. Can't say enough good things about Samaritan Ministries. So check them out, folks, SamaritanMinistries.org. You can check them out on our website as well. Really good stuff there. Okay, Mark, here's a good question we got. Let's get to a question here. Cheryl.
Okay, let's do it.
As opposed to the bad questions we got.
Yeah, that's right. We don't do bad questions on this show. No, all the questions we get are good questions. Cheryl's saying, my husband and I are members. We'd like to find out what is needed to start an account for our grandchild. Thank you so much. Boy, that's a good question, Mark. It really is. And I think it speaks to a kind of a broader subject of how to teach the next generation the principles of biblically responsible investing. So what would you have to share?
That's biblical stewardship regarding mentoring, and mentoring is part of what we do. We mentor our children and our grandchildren. Hopefully we do. So it's great. Thank again for the question. Actually, there's two parts to this. The first part is determining what kind of account. for your grandchild. That's very important. And then the second part is how to open up that account, and which is the easiest of the two. So determining the type of account to open for the child could be a little more difficult, don't you think, Seth?
I do, Mark. And Cheryl, I think a lot of this comes down to age, really. If they're a young child or a baby or something like that, they don't have any say in this. They don't know what's going on. So you're really doing most of it for them. So that takes away the teenage Roth, Mark. I personally really like, Mark, kind of the simple UGMA account. I think that's really good. There are some
we're in
things,
agreement there.
Yeah. I think there are just some things you have to be aware of with that one. It is just like a regular investment account, so it's you're not going to get the tax benefits that a Roth IRA would, for example. The big concern with this one, Mark, and I'm not saying it's a concern that would deter someone from using it, but is just the idea of once you give the gift, it's in that account and it is theirs now. And so when they reach the age of majority, it's usually 18 or 21, that money becomes theirs. So you got to make sure that they're being stewarded well in the other areas too, so that they're not foolishly managing that money once it's theirs. Because I got to tell you, Mark, from experience, being an 18-year-old, I did not know everything when I was 18. I didn't know everything when I was 21.
Speak for yourself. I knew everything.
Sam was brilliant. Sam was a rare breed. Absolutely.
I have horror stories from clients about their kids inheriting their, finding out, getting a letter from the IRS saying that this is now theirs, or from the brokerage saying this account's theirs. And, I got to tell you this one client was telling me, my son came home from college midterm on a new Harley with a biker girl on the back, and looked at me and just said, "Dad, I got this notice that said this was all my money, and I realized I didn't need college, and I didn't need to, and I just bought this Harley, and I'm going on the road, So
got a tattoo that said "No regrets."
That's exactly
no regrets.
Right. So all that to say, Mark, I still believe, and I'm sure you do too, the UGMA custodial account is a great option nonetheless. Just make sure that it comes alongside of you as the grandparent, Cheryl, or maybe this is your kids who are doing this more as their parents, that they are teaching this child to steward money well from an early age, so that when they hit that age of majority, they'll be ready. They'll be ready.
Right.
Absolutely.
And there's other types of accounts, but most of them have too many hooks in them and too many levers. And did you mention the Trump accounts?
I haven't yet, Mark. I haven't yet.
Oh, okay.
Trump accounts are important.
The new kids' Trump accounts are a great idea. That's what we got the petition going for, is to make sure that some future president or something cannot keep Christians from investing with biblical integrity by narrowing the concept of an index down to just the S&P 500, which it is right now. So we got to be very careful about that. We don't want to donate money to our babies and then that money go into 40% of it into companies that are either promoting or providing or encouraging abortion, pornography, and ugliness like that. So we want to invest in a way that honors God and moves forward. So please sign that petition if you haven't already. But I agree, we should UGMA or UPMA is the best way to go, and then setting up the accounts real easy. If you got a social security number, if you're going to need the information about the child, you can go online and set up the account and then fund it.
Absolutely. And Mark, my understanding is, and I do this for my kids as well, you're able to kind of, I don't know what's the best way to describe this, but you can link it to your accounts as well. So it's kind of in that same sort of ecosystem there.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do it at a different brokerage or anything like that. Mark, one more that's an interesting one that I'll just mention is don't just throw aside the idea of maybe the old teenage Roth. If this child is a teenager, if they're an older one and they have earned income, that could be an option too. Get that Roth started early. That'd be great. Absolutely. Yep. And then, Mark, one more thing here, too, just so I'm not sure if Cheryl is thinking this way, but in her question, she says, we'd like to find out what is needed to start an account for our grandchildren. She doesn't specify if it's an investment account, which we just mentioned, or if it's a financial issues partnership account. If it's that, Cheryl, you can gift your grandchild a partnership. You can certainly do that. You can go to financialissues.org, hover over the resources tab and click gift a partnership. That'd be my suggestion, Mark, if this grandchild is older, if they're, maybe like a teenager and they can manage it themselves. Or if they're younger, you can just open a portfolio tracker for their investments alongside of yours, Cheryl. It's super easy. You just go to the portfolio tracker page, click that plus button, name the account, whatever you want to name it for them, and then get the investment started that way. So it's two simple ways to be able to, do that there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's great. Well, guys,
good catch there.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Why don't we move to a really good story here? Winning Wednesday. It is Winning Wednesday after all. And
it is.
This one excites me a lot, Mark, because it's moving our country in a direction towards God instead of away from him. Sam, I won't spoil it anymore. Tell us what the Winning Wednesday is today.
Seth, I can't agree with you enough. If this is not a win for a Wednesday, I don't know. I just don't know what it is. I need to quit my job. So President Trump recently announcing that on May 17th, he will hold an event in Washington, D.C. to officially rededicate the country as one nation under God as America marks 250 years as a nation. Here's Trump.
We're inviting Americans from all across the country to come together on our national mall to pray, to give thanks, and we are going to do something that everyone said, like, that's tough. We're going to rededicate America as one nation under God.
In that same speech, I love this. Trump said, quote, prayer is America's superpower. So cool. I love that. By the way, back in January, Trump also signed a proclamation declaring 2026 a year of celebration and redirection, calling on Americans to reflect on our abundant blessings, pray for our country and our people, and rededicate ourselves, again, as one nation under God. At the same time, he also launched what he called the America Prays Initiative, also very cool, encouraging Americans to form prayer groups all across the country and pray for the United States for 1 hour each and every week. Very cool stuff.
Awesome.
Very cool. Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. In fact, Sam, Seth, hey, why don't we go to the mall on that day?
Oh, I'd love it.
Podcast from there.
Idea.
Be so cool.
It'd be so cool. No, but Mark, here, this is something that I think we can't just gloss over this one. We have a president, a sitting president right now, and this would have been mind-boggling if you're sitting here in 2012 under the Obama administration or say 2022 under Biden. We have a president who is saying prayer is America's superpower, and he wants to rededicate our nation to God.
You know, Seth, it's kind of funny. In that clip, he said, we're going to do something that people say, wow, that's tough. And you think, why? But then you put it in that context of where we've come from. You're right. This is kind of a tough thing to do because we've been so far away from being one nation under God for so long.
Bringing God back into the public sphere, Mark, I love it. I know some Christians may not even like it. I think they're wrong. I think this is a fantastic thing. We want our nation to be a nation that honors the Lord. It doesn't mean every single person in the nation is a Christian. It might not even mean that Trump himself is a born-again Christian, but he is promoting Christian values in the public sphere. How can you not like that as a Christian? My mind is boggled to understand how someone doesn't like that.
It could be because of 5,000 years of seeing how religion is manipulated for wars and to manipulate people. So a lot of conservative, ultra-conservative Christians would say, I don't want the government getting in our lane. I want them to stay out of our lane, because every time they get in our lane, they start trying to gain the control over that lane, like the churches and whatnot. But we got a great God, and he's not going to let that happen. We're not going to let that happen. We just need to honor God. And I think it's a step in the right direction. He's not saying, hey, I want the government to come in and start telling people what faith they should have and how they worship and do it. What he's saying is, let's just get back to God.
Right. I can't remember what Supreme Court Justice said this. It was in a ruling. They said, the Constitution says that we can't, the government can't officially declare a certain religion over another, but the government can be pro-religion as opposed to anti-religion in general.
Absolutely. And Sam, if you take that philosophically a step further, the only true religion in this world is Christianity. So to be pro-religion definitionally it should be to be pro-Christianity. And I really do love this. I mean, I think it's awesome. Guys, it reminds me, Mark, from a historical perspective, the separation of church and state. A lot of people think that the separation of church and state is to protect the state from the church.
They also think it's in the Constitution,
exactly,
which
it's not. The reality is the separation of church and state is to protect the church to worship freely from an intrusive government. Trump is doing this. This is a way to celebrate Christianity, to protect Christianity, not to make the government intrude onto Christian freedoms, which I think is a lot more what the Biden administration did and other administrations have done in the past. Anyway, sorry to get on the soapbox.
No, it's so important.
Totally
These are
agree.
things that you want to consider, because what you also don't want to fall into, and I don't think we're at risk of doing this, is what you saw with some European countries in the 1800s, where being so synonymous with being a Christian nation, people just just assumed by being, say, part of Denmark or some country, I'm naturally a Christian, even though I don't believe in anything Christianity.
Well, there's just like there's cultural everything. There's cultural Christians, you know. There's the Easter, there's the 2 times a year Christian. There's those who are truly pursuing Christ, things like that. It's a good thing. Let's just nail that down.
Exactly.
It's a good thing that we're getting the nation focused on God. And when we come back, we're going to get focused on your questions. I see Jane Ann has a question in the chat that's
a great question.
They need addressed, and we got Daryl on the line here, and the phones are open as well. So we're going to be focusing on your questions when we come back here right after this short break. The number here is 610-363-1110, and you can call in and get on it. And I'd really like to hear, if you wouldn't mind, if you had a financial advisor ever in your life, I'd really like you to call in and just say whether they prayed with you or not, whether they asked you about your worldview being, asked you whether you had any spiritual faith or anything like that, so they could help you manage your money in alignment with that. I'd love to hear your feedback on that. 610-363-1110. 610-363-1110.
As a member of Samaritan Ministries, your monthly share is a gift that goes directly to a real person in need.
My baby was like this big. He's like this tiny little spectrum of hope and this unnamed beauty, in a sense. It was poetic. And I saw his heart beating on the screen. And I mean, I went from, I don't want this baby, it's just a fetus, it's just cells put together, to talking to my child on the screen, and feeling really protective, and knowing that there's life growing inside. I mean, that sonogram changed my life. I went from just Candace to mom. I'm a mom.
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of Preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
Navigating through investment options can be challenging, especially when you're determined to uphold your God-given values. Every dollar you invest is a vote for the world that you want to live in. Let your values guide your investment decisions and help to shape the culture in which we live. Become a beacon of light and pave the way with biblically responsible investing. Timothy Plan, where faith and finance collide. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Give us a call now, folks. 610-363-1110. Mark, speaking of calls, let's get right to Daryl here. Daryl's calling from Louisiana.
Daryl, welcome to the show. What's on your mind this morning, this hump day?
Oh, yes. Good morning, man. Thank y'all for what y'all do for us. And no, I've never had a financial advisor, My first financial advisor was Dan, I reckon, whenever I first heard him. And
my guess is he did pray with you.
Yeah, well, not directly, but certainly he prayed indirectly for all of us. I know often.
He sure did, man.
But yeah. Anyway, I'm 66, retired, and I heard your answer the other day, Friday, on the overtime to Jim on the traditional to Roth conversion. And I had a couple of follow-up questions, if you don't mind. You said you can't take the gains until 5 years. How's that kept up with? Is it by the broker, I would assume?
Well, yeah, your broker can track income, any gains and income, so they can do that for you. Absolutely. Okay. But you need to watch that. It's your responsibility. It's not theirs. It's not the government's. I've never heard of anybody ever coming back and getting tagged with that. I'm sure somebody has, but I haven't heard of that yet. So,
Daryl, this can be helpful for you. Usually the clock will start on January 1st of the contribution year. So that's when it officially starts. First day of the year that you make that conversion. After you're 59 and a half.
And it's easier to track your contribution than it is your gains and income.
Exactly.
So, exactly. You can see how much you've contributed to your account and then know that's how much you could take out during that 5-year period.
Yeah.
Well, I'd heard that before from y'all or from someone, maybe Dan or somebody, or read it. But anyway, I've had my Roth for many years, and so the gains, any gains is just going in the cash, and then I buy more stock with it in the Roth itself, of course. And but last year I did a large conversion, and I plan on continuing to do smaller conversions each year. And so far I've been paying the taxes from a regular investment account, but this is drying up since I'm also using it for monthly expenses that are above my Social Security that I'm getting now. I got to thinking, and I thought I remembered y'all or Dan or someone before saying maybe you ought to start using the tradition for that monthly expenses instead of the regular account. And anyway, I was wanting to see what your recommendation on how you should, what account should you get for the taxes out of, and what for regular monthly expenses? What do you recommend? Because I've got all three.
Yeah, and that's good to hear you have all three, because you can make decisions. If your taxes are higher this year because of some great gains in your investments or a sale of a company or something goes on, then you could pull from the Roth and pull out whatever you could pull from there to do the things you need to do. If, on the other hand, you're in a lower tax bracket and you don't think you're going to it's going to affect you, you could be pulling out of your IRA, of course. And then you have a non-qualified account, it sounds like. That always could be an account, especially if it's a year that you did some tax harvesting and you're offsetting some taxes. You could use that. It really is whatever is going to affect your taxes the least or cause you not to pay more taxes. You want to manage it. Tax management is important. It's second only to investing with biblical integrity, I think. Obviously, managing for return is also very important. It's right up there, too. But what I'm saying is you have to look at that every year, see where you're at when you go to pay your taxes, or what are you going to draw from? Well, my taxes are the same as last year, or my tax brackets have gone down, so I think I'll just start pulling out of my traditional IRA. Eventually, you're going to have to pull out of the traditional if you don't get it fully converted or utilize it. At 72, you're going to start having to do RMDs, So eventually you're going to pay taxes on it one way or another. I prefer to get rid of the taxes as soon as possible myself. So I would just say every year, just be thinking about what's the best place to pull it from. This year I'm in where my capital gains would be zero. We'll pull it out of your non-qualified account because your taxes are so low. And next year you might be in a tax bracket where that's not true, and you're going to be paying more on it. So you got to balance it. You got to look at it. You got to plan it. Is the bottom line on it. You can't. There's no rule of thumb. If there's any rule of thumb, it'd be this: whenever possible, pay the least amount of taxes possible. That's the rule of thumb.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best one for sure. All right, thank you. I was hoping it was some kind of quick and dirty little rule there.
Whenever possible, you want everything in the Roth. The quicker you get to Roth, the better.
Yeah.
And then you don't have these issues because everything comes out tax-free.
There you go. Daryl, the best rule of thumb I heard from a very wise man, and he's the guy who's sitting behind the other microphone. He said, only buy stocks that are going up, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm just joking, obviously. Doesn't always happen that way.
All right.
Appreciate you, Daryl.
Appreciate you.
Thanks. Good talking to you, Daryl. God bless you.
Brother. Yeah, Mark, my favorite piece of advice. If you invest in the stocks that go up, you'll do great.
Yeah, you'll do great.
That's what I do.
That's what Sam does.
Well, not lately.
Right. There you go. Mark, we got a great question here from Jane Ann. Jane Ann's a new partner. Jane Ann, welcome to you from Columbia, Missouri, your home state, Mark. Great to have you. She's on the chat. And she's just asking this question here, Mark. Are the buy recommendations listed in order of preference on the buy list? In other words, are they ranked top rated and down? So when she sees the buy list, are they like our favorite picks at the top and then our kind of the scrubs at the bottom?
That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
How's that work there, Mark?
I like the idea, but it would change so much that people would get frustrated. Technical indicators. We do a thing called FTB analysis here. FTB is something I designed many, many years ago in my advisory when I was managing money for individuals and small companies. It stands for fundamental, technical, and biblical. Biblical, you obviously know what that is because you're a partner. We do biblically responsible investing. So the screening comes first, and then we look at the fundamentals. That tells us what to buy, and the technicals give us an indication of the possibilities, the longer-term or shorter-term trends on those kind of things. So it helps us to decide when to buy and when to get out in if we ever need to get out. So a combination of all of those comes together. If we ranked them, that could change almost daily because of the craziness of this market, especially during times like this when the seas are rough. When the investment seas are rough. So, no, they're not listed in order.
That's right. Jane Ann,
if they're on the buy list, they're a buy. That's
exactly.
the bottom line.
Yeah, equal buy. And, of course, you have to, this is where you would determine your age, your allocation, that sort of thing. Mark, I will say one thing. Stocks at the top usually are recently added. So the ones we've added most recently will be up at the top to, catch your eye. So, and you can also get those on the commentary.
You can sort, too. You can sort by how recent they are.
Yeah, I was going to say, unless you sorted it somehow. Yeah.
Exactly. That's awesome. Mark, before we get to the ag, let me just say this also. Jane Ann has a great encouragement for us, saying your program is the best. Thank you for serving the Lord and all of us. The partnership is definitely worth the money. I'm about a month-old partner. Jane, that is awesome. And we just thank you so much for that encouragement. Jane. So cool.
Absolutely.
Well, Mark, we've got Craig coming in here with our weekly ag focus. So we'll hear from Craig Haugaard, and then we'll get back to more financial issues. Folks, during the ag report, give us a call, why don't you? 610-363-1110. We'll be back.
This is Craig Haugaard with your weekly financial issues ag focus. Surging fertilizer costs stemming from the conflict in Iran, along with the uncertainty in a broader geopolitical space, have rallied grain prices. While higher grain prices have delivered slight relief for farmers facing depressed balance sheets, the conflict brings into question how much acreage farmers will plant this spring with crops that rely on nitrogen fertilizers like urea. Although prices of crops like corn, canola, and cotton have rallied, fertilizer prices have still risen higher relative to crop prices. The prices ratio between each crop and urea are signaling that each nitrogen-using crop now faces production risk. The urea corn price ratio is the most watched ratio, which currently stands at 1.31. That's the highest in 5 years and well above the 5-year average of 0.82. And that trend is similar for other nitrogen-demanding crops like spring wheat, oats, rice, and cotton. Farmers in the U.S. are considering either switching acres to crops like soybeans, edible beans, peas, and lentils that that require less fertilizer are trimming fertilizer application rates, which may result in reduced yields at harvest time. While most farmers pre-applied fertilizer in the fall or determined their input needs when they made planting decisions this winter, farmers who didn't will be forced to reconsider their planting options this spring. Now, while that is going on in the U.S., we have a situation in Brazil where Brazilian soybean farmers are expected to see soybean profits of only $10 per acre for the 2025-26 crop season, which could limit Brazil's soybean growth in the coming years. Lower soybean prices, elevated production costs, and weaker export premiums have really compressed margins for Brazilian farmers, pushing profitability to the lowest level in nearly 2 decades, close to break even. Brazilian farmers have been facing a similar trend as U.S. producers, with production costs rising and soybean prices falling globally. Much like the U.S., fertilizer costs continue to stress Brazilian producers. Brazil imports 85% of their fertilizer needs, and because these inputs are priced in U.S. dollars, the appreciation of the dollar relative to the Brazilian real increases further production costs for farmers. Given the tighter margin environment, it's likely that Brazil will continue to grow production at an annual rate well below what we've observed over the last couple of decades. And that in turn would probably be good ultimately for U.S. farmers. This has been Craig Haugaard with your Financial Issues Ag Update. We'll be right back with more financial issues after this.
My wife and I helped lead a Crossroads Kids Club, and one of the girls, she said, Mr. Dave, you keep talking about like you didn't really believe in Jesus and you were like dead or something, and then like you believed in Jesus and then you're like alive, and I want to receive that. And so we like just prayed there in our group to receive Jesus and owning this idea of life with Jesus for the first time.
Help reach kids with the hope of the gospel. Visit reachOurSchools.com.
As a member of Samaritan Ministries, your monthly share is a gift that goes directly to a real person in need. While that share takes care of the financial portion of a need, medical needs are complex and include the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual.
Preborn is making motherhood possible for thousands of moms across America.
I found out that I was pregnant. My family, they were like, no, you're not having this baby. I met Miss Linda. She offered to get me an ultrasound. That's where I very first heard the heartbeat. It was really a great thing that I was led to the choice to keep him.
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of Preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Welcome back, folks. Give us a call, 610-363-1110. Guys, the markets. Boy, what do we do with these markets? Yesterday,
what are we going to do with these markets?
What are we going to do with these markets?
You sound like a disappointed father.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm so disappointed in you. You could have done so much better. No, truthfully, the markets came back to earth yesterday, but it was not a disastrous, like all hell's breaking loose coming back to earth. Each of the major indices was down, but not too terribly, with the exception of the NASDAQ, down about a full percent. But the Russell 2000 was up. And the pre-markets this morning, however, and this is where it gets really fun, they were feeling great, and the markets have opened very positively because now, apparently, the anonymous sources, whoever they might be, dead or alive, are now telling us that there could be an end to the Iran war.
It could be Pete Hegseth.
Who is it?
It could be the ghost of the former Ayatollah. It could be the janitors girlfriend's cousin's dog. We don't know. They're all anonymous.
Exactly right. So, Mark, what do you make of this? I mean, it's just like they're going back and forth here.
Well, I'll tell you what I make of it. You and I are sitting here laughing, enjoying it, okay?
Yeah.
But imagine if you don't have Christ in your life. And your hope is in your portfolio, or your hope is in your ability to make money, or your hope is in your, whatever, in your ability to gain power, and because you don't have Christ in your life, and you don't know where real power is, and you don't know what peace really is. You're not enjoying this at all. No. But because we have Christ, these up and downs really don't matter, because we know over time what's going to happen. We know God's in control. We know that we have an incredible God. And if we do even a good portion of what he's enabled us to do in our research and what he's enabled us to do, that the outcome is really his no matter what. And he's going to do what's best for all of us. And we can trust in that. And we have hope. And we can sit here and joke about the markets, So, and those people reporting about the markets, and those people reporting about the war, with all the anonymous people in there. By the way, that's not journalism to me.
Back in the day, there's no way you could run a story based on anonymous sources. So this whole thing right now, just so you know, is anonymous sources from the U.S. are saying there's a deal with Iran. And then anonymous sources from Iran are saying there's not a deal. So who's even to say anymore?
Absolutely.
Yeah, anonymous sounds a lot like moronic, but I don't know how that fits in with who's ever doing this so-called report, but somehow it seems to fit into that. I'll leave it there.
Exactly right. Yeah. Well, at any rate, guys, the NASDAQ is up a full percent now, and the Russell 2000 is creeping up towards 1.5%. Meanwhile, S&P 500 up about 0.7%, and the Dow Jones creeping up towards a full percent too. So market's feeling pretty good, Mark.
Oh, okay, Seth. I'll have to say it's easier to smile when it is going up.
I'm telling you, that's right. If they're just always going up, it makes me feel better. But alas,
that's why we always say only buy those stocks that are going up.
That's exactly right. But in all seriousness, folks, look, we're long-term investors. And Mark, I've never been prouder to be a long-term investor than to be able to be going through this, which probably for some of our long-timers feels like a blip on the screen. Especially people who lived through 2000. Yeah. Right.
You know, this first quarter's been a little bit hard on the markets and on people's portfolios. But, I know a few managers, I meet with managers, a few around the U.S. on not as regular as I used to when I managed money for integrity investors and faith investors and people like that. But I still meet with them, and some of them went to cash not too long ago, and they missed the rallies.
Yeah,
trying to time the market. Sometimes you can hit it, sometimes you can't, sometimes you do well. But the reality is if you have a great portfolio and it's a great portfolio, you just hang into there. If something's breaking down in that portfolio because the fundamentals are breaking down, the financial issues, steel is rusting or breaking down, then it's time to get out of it. And of course, that's when we issue sells in our partner hub. But otherwise, we know how to weather that, and we do so comfortably because we know it's very short term. Downsides are so much shorter than the long term uptrends.
Good stuff, Mark. 610-363-1110. Mark, a question from Dale here. He's 72. He says, Mark, what's your opinion on MA50 and the issuance of new shares with this particular stock? How should I vote? I have MA50 in 5 different accounts, 4 of them for my grandchildren. They called a shareholder vote to approve the issuance of new shares tied to the proposed acquisition of a separate company. What would you say here, Mark?
Dale, if you were listening in the beginning of the show when I went back and forth on the SEC talking about the quarterly reports going to semi-annually, and my thought that maybe they ought to be reporting real time all the time since they're using public money, and I was going back and forth. This is one of those things I go back and forth on because this company could be a good move. It could work. It could grow the company. It could help it happen. But on the other end of it, the problem is that issuing new shares dilutes your shares already, meaning your ownership percentage shrinks. And that often puts pressure on the stock price in the short term. So I don't like the idea of them doing that. I don't like the idea ever of being diluted. Could it work? Sure. Is it a long-term strategy? Yeah. So let me just, from a financial issues standpoint, this stock is currently on our buy list, meaning we like the company. We believe it has long-term potential. It has a place in your portfolio, but that doesn't mean we automatically support every decision the manager makes. This particular move leans in more aggressive and than conservative, and it threw up some flags for me. So, though it didn't throw me over the side to say let's get rid of it, because it could be a good move. I just think that it's typical in this industry that they do stuff like this, so it wasn't unexpected, but I don't like it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Mark. And that brings up something, because you're exactly right. Up until this point, MA50's been a good, solid company. You know, good earnings, good, decent, at least satisfactory debt level, all that. Mark, what kind of warning signs should we take if something like this happens, even if it is a warning sign? Can we still be confident that this will be a good, solid company?
Unfortunately, I've seen this over the years so many times where mining companies would issue new stock every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
You know, and keep diluting and then say, you know what, you can't make any money in it because your stock you have less and less ownership, and you stop making the money that you should be making in it, and you start realizing that, and you move on, or the company goes bankrupt, or the company merges with another company finally, and then it all starts over again. I don't like this in the mining industry, but it's typical of it. That's all I can say. So if you're going to be in the mining industry, get used to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, Mark, I think there's kind of a broader question here for Dale. You know, he's asking, how should I vote? If there's an opportunity like this for a company, whether it's a miner or not, how should we consider how we vote? Is it really just vote your conscience, or is it a good idea to kind of dive a little deeper?
If you're going to vote on this, you need to dig in, see what they're trying to do, go deep on it, see if it really makes sense as much as you can if you're going to take the time to do that. And there is some stewardship in making that vote. Quite frankly, there's other ways they could do this without diluting you. So I personally would be voting no.
Yeah. Good stuff. Dale, it's a good question, brother, and we appreciate that.
Unless you're going to issue me some more stock for what you're taking away from me free of charge, no.
Absolutely. Mark, let's squeeze a final question here. It's a bit of a shorter one. Carolee, 65. Good to hear from you, Carolee. I hope Nelson's doing well. We met Carolee at a retreat a couple years ago, Mark, so it was cool to get to hear from her. She's saying, I got an email about Old Glory Bank that will be able to trade on the market soon. Do you know anything about Old Glory Bank? Thank you, and God bless.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Old Glory Bank, I've spoke with them several times, actually. I like their emphasis. They are clean, as far as I can tell. They really are pro-life. They're anti-abortion, which is good from my conversations with them. If they do go public, it seems like it would be a decent stock. I guess we'll have to wait until they go public to see what happens at that point, really. But so far, Old Glory seems to be making a pretty good impression in the conservative environment. I notice I didn't say Christian at this point, because it's really not a Christian bank. It's just a conservative bank. They're patriotic, pro-life, pro-family organization from everything I've read and from my conversations with them so far.
Absolutely. And Mark, something to keep in mind, everything I'm seeing in the news about it is it could be literally any day now. There's no specific date.
But there's also something else that this just came to mind. I'm sorry to interrupt you on this, but
no problem.
But the way they're going to go public is through a SPAC, and a lot of people don't understand this thing. What it is it's an investment account, an investment company that is going to merge with it, and so people are saying, well, you can buy this investment company, and that way, when they merge, you own Old Glory. I don't think that's a very sound way to go about it. I'd wait till it all hits, because you don't know what this is going to look like when it all settles, and if that's really how they go through it. So be careful.
Yeah.
Or if it doesn't go through, then you've been holding in a company that you didn't want and may not want. So anyway, we don't want that. We want you to find good stocks. We want to find good things that not only help your portfolio to support your goals for honoring God in your life, but also that honor God in all ways. How you invest, why you invest, to honor God and to utilize the tools He's given you to be a great steward. And thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you so much for loving God. And thank you for investing with biblical integrity. We look forward to being with you tomorrow, Thursday, as we come back with financial issues to answer your questions and to come together to honor God in all we do.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.